Yes, we're ready. Okay, we're going to start our meeting. We're starting a few minutes late because we were honoring Hank Bangser, but we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome Cheryl to the table.
I know.
We have our new assistant superintendent and our new superintendent in place, so we'll begin the agenda. First, I'll need, there's no emergency modifications.
There are none.
I'll need approval of the agenda. Motion to approve.
I'll move approval.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of June 27th, 2017.
I'll move to approve the minutes from June 17th.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. We have no student report because it's still summer for 2 more days. I would like to mention Kevin is on his way. He was working in LA today, so he should be here momentarily. Public comments. Angie, would you like to speak now or at a specific 7.1.5? Yeah. Oh, yes, that's about, okay, absolutely. Okay, our special presentations. Ron gets to go first tonight. He's probably so happy. You are? Well, I think Andy will probably introduce you, but we are going to talk about our Measure J projects for the summer.
So Ron has had many late nights lately trying to get everything done before the summer, so we did want to try to give him the benefit of having an early meeting, be able to actually see perhaps your house while the sun's still out. So this is not the meeting, though, or the discussion I was hoping that we'd be having in August. Certainly not a year ago as we were planning for Summer Projects 2017, but I am nonetheless very proud of what we've accomplished so far. And in September, or perhaps even the October board meeting will be where we really are able to show some of the pictures of the work that was completed this summer and talk a little bit more about our reflection on the summer as well as the direction forward. But what I do think is really worth celebrating tonight before Ron shares a little bit about the outstanding projects is the reality of what Ron has done since coming on in January. You know, what we were trying to accomplish this summer was not only our first out-of-the-gate real projects of, any significant magnitude beyond painting, but we're doing it in a year-long planning process in the 5 months before, from when he came on at the end of January. Did an incredible job. We have tangible, projects here that he was able to result in savings of what we're projecting at this point in excess of $200,000 just from the first summer of really having not just his project management rather than Balfour Beatty's, but also the fact that we have a project manager who was drywalling over the weekend and doing many things like that, as it was necessary throughout the past number of months. So, it was really something that Hank and I felt strongly, but was also we were hearing very clearly from this board of really wanting to look at what was the right leadership we had for these projects. And, certainly as we're wrapping up the summer, I feel all the more certain that Ron really is the right person to help us move forward with Measure J. So with that, I'll let Ron give just a brief update. You have the materials in front of you as far as his update on the projects, but just talk a little bit about those that we've completed, the two that are mainly outstanding, and then we'll both talk about the plan forward for 2018.
Thanks for the kind word. Okay, well, let's go down the list here. I've got Nordoff Gym is just now finishing up. They were working on it today. They'll be back next weekend to finish up some of the spraying of the final cool roof coat. That's Title 24 reflective coating that helps energy savings, and the gutters and the last minute touch-up stuff like that. So this weekend, maybe one more weekend, depending on how quickly they can get those in. But they're at the last thing. The roofs are watertight now, and we have a 40-year guarantee on the roof. So we're going to be in there for a long haul. So very good summer project there.
Is there any work on those? That's all completed for during the school hours. Is that right?
That's correct.
That's what
they're
you're
only going to work
saying?
on
It's
weekends.
only
No
weekends.
interaction with. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that they were talking about working in the afternoons, but we kind of nixed that because some of the odor was objectionable. So we're going to stay away from. Yeah, of course. Kids are always first. And Nordoff Cafeteria stage expansion. Waiting for the doors to finally get here. They're supposed to be here last week, but they're not here yet. Typical in construction, you try to get something, you get a schedule, and sure enough somebody lags behind in some way. But it's coming together. I just spoke with Kim White briefly just a moment ago, and we're going to get the lighting people in there and start getting that process going to make sure we have everything we need to have for them. Get that running up. I've got a flooring person coming in to set the floors here shortly, so they can get the materials here, and we should be on schedule.
So Ron, just to confirm, we're looking at now September 20th or so deadline. So we have the OEF breakfast on September 28th this year, and that has been our hard deadline that we absolutely with certainty will be completed by. So that way, as part of the OEF breakfast, the donors can go over and actually see, what they were able to. As you can see, the final budget shaking out to be that they funded half of this project, which again, going back to some of the savings that Ron has generated. When we first went out and had an architect bid out this project, it was a $380,000 project. When we scaled that back significantly, it went down to about $180,000 project, and there's no difference between the $180,000 project and what we have completed. The only difference between what we're doing completion here and what was originally the $380,000 was a wheelchair lift. Is the only thing that came out of that plan. So depending on how you look at it, a savings of nearly 80% from the initial budget, or of at least 50%. But we are a little bit delayed on that one, but we'll have it done before OEF with their great contribution.
And when do they usually do the first production?
Exactly. There's nothing of consequence that's being delayed, or this is certainly still a usable cafeteria, so there's nothing that's being interrupted by its delay.
Okay. Matilda Gym locker roof is still in the process with the DSA. Token Kitchen was getting delayed because of environmental requirements that we were explained by the field technicians. We did not eat a hood if we had a certain type of oven and stuff, because we were warming food up there because of the satellite kitchen type thing. And they came back from their plan check, and they were very adamant that we had to have put in a hood, a big, large commercial kitchen hood, which costs more. And it costs a lot of time as far as the engineering required for the support of the hood, the framing, et cetera, et cetera. The engineers came back with some really colorful designs that were just nigh impossible without tearing down the whole building and starting over again. Then we finally whittled it down to something that was manageable, but that again took us time and pushed us a little bit farther. So I'm hoping we're 2-3 weeks out, working on it today. Getting a lot of stuff done. We've got the flooring to be going in fairly soon. I'm guardedly optimistically we're going to make it within the month of September.
Can you explain in that what the next couple of weeks are going to look like for lunch? Can that area be used?
They made arrangements in the cafeteria auditorium area. They set up all the extra stuff we have purchased for the boxes and the tables and such, and they created a serving area there they can use for the prepackaged lunches for the kids.
Okay.
The arrangements were made once we figured out it wasn't going to happen by school. We made arrangements with Julie Chesson, the what's her title?
Nutrition Service Director.
Yeah,
so she's prepared to have it go through the entire month of September. As Ron said, we are not expecting that it's going to be that long. But there will not be warm meals produced at Topa Topa during this period. So it's either going to be the meals produced elsewhere and brought over, or it'll be
like
cold,
they do at
cold
San
meals.
Antonio Summit.
Exactly, it's the exact same that we do currently at San Antonio Summit, just a larger school site, being treated that way.
I'll make sure kids are taken care of.
Before you go on, I noticed that with high approval, actually, that this revamped kitchen now gives us, as you put here, the opportunity for more from scratch cooking.
Absolutely.
And I'm just wondering, now that we have the capacity, are we actually planning, to formally try and do that? Is that something we're going to incorporate in our program?
Absolutely. And Julie's going to be in a few minutes, and so she can talk a little bit about what we currently are doing and what we'll be working toward.
Yeah, a lot of the work done in this was future for putting back a dishwasher area in it, the future piping in, so we're going to tear out the floors again. And other items, stoves, the ovens, et cetera, are designed to possibly create more from scratch cooking. Kind of give it that more home feel for the kids, and maybe a better usership of the cafeterias.
Something I asked Andy about that we can think about and talk about in the future was, if it is a commercial grade kitchen at this point, there may be fundraising opportunities to use that. I know people look for those and would like to rent them out. I don't know if we would entertain that idea, but throwing it out there
It's
is
a very small kitchen.
right.
I don't know how well it would do for a large, like something like that. You probably look at feeding 200-300 people. It could be done, but I don't know if that would be a good venue for that particular
Well, I know in
location.
the past we also have, like the PTA just has done fundraising using that. People have come in and I think we weren't supposed to at the time, and that's why we don't do it anymore. But have used it, just the PTA as a fundraiser, that kind of thing.
But there are groups that want to make, like, I don't know, jam or oil or whatever to produce in small quantities, and having a commercial kitchen would allow them to do that. They don't necessarily need to feed a lot of people, they just want to
Right.
produce a food
Isn't the
product.
kitchen here the same thing? I mean, that's
So we do rent that one out. It's currently not.
to code.
It's not in the best of shape. But for instance, when the pancake breakfast on the 4th of July, they are required to go out and get a separate health permit for a special event. And so that's the biggest restriction around potentially renting out a facility like we currently do. And Myers Oaks at times is used, but I don't know all of the details, but you do typically have to get a special health permit separate from what the district holds for its own use.
And part of that process is requiring, the county requires you to have plans that you can show them exactly what the kitchen is like, and because we've just done that, I'm assuming that we would have those available to make
Certainly.
to streamline that process.
Miners Oaks roof restoration was completed as of Saturday. And they worried, but they got through, and they did it all, and it looks nice. And the Miners Oaks, the modular classrooms were removed. Not too much to do, and
Wait, you skipped the Nordoff welding on the first page.
yes, we did. The shop ventilation system has been ordered finally. We had held up with the VCOE, and they had some forms that they needed filled out that we didn't realize we needed filled out, and they got the process through and finally got them, and they were waiting for their approval. And rather than wait any longer, which is almost into August, Andy graciously said we could use Measure J funds while we're waiting for and get the process going and get that process moving on. So it's in process now.
So it's a custom equipment that takes 4 to 6 weeks to actually build offsite, and then it's brought in. So Ron will be working with Fender, our welding shop teacher, to actually coordinate the 3 or 4 days that during the school year it may end up being down. The facility may be down as they're installing this. Otherwise, it'd be waiting until an actual break.
The actual installation doesn't take long. It's the actual physically building it and shipping the people out. People come out to install it and work for them. So we'll get her done. Okay, and the modular classrooms. Airmoney admin building was completed with the paint job, and they've got real nice landscaping out front as of Sunday afternoon. We had a whole crew out there just working overnight, and Chuck told me that they were having a tractor dropped out today for putting the decomposed granite in, so they're in good shape. DSA enclosures are on the move. They're working on the hard ones now, so they're taking a lot of time. We have a meeting on the 29th. I meet with the architects and the administrator and the field inspector, and we're going to get a little closure on a few more projects going. So this is a slow time, but it's moving and as fast as possibly can. That's about all I get for proposed projects. We got the Nordoff Library, and possibly the Misilla Kitchen, and Myers Oaks Kitchen possibly next year, and of course there's always roofs to be done.
So I'll just emphasize and maybe preempt a question coming from this side of the table. That what I see is, the most important task that Ron's going to be working on this fall is really that last bullet item. It's something that he, along with R&T and myself, have been working on through the summer and even prior to summer to some extent, and that's the broader bond plan, and a very clear plan of how we'll be budgeting out the $35 million, because I know that it is challenging when we're talking about individual projects of how do we move forward with a single project, not knowing what that may prevent us from being able to do in the future. And so we've heard a real priority from this board as well as within our leadership team of having that broader plan developed. Obviously, as we've said many times, the work that's been done up to this point is work that we know was going to be on that list. It was things that we pulled from our actual broader list of projects, but really as we're going forward, we know that bond plan is necessary. Just to make sure the board knows, and for those in the audience, part of the IRS requirements when you sell school facility bonds is that you must have 85% of the bonds committed to or spent within 36 months of when the bonds were sold. We sold our bonds in April of 15, which means that, and it was a $10 million tranche, remember, so it's not the full $35 million, but the $10 million first sale. So we are required to have committed $8.5 million of funds by April of 18. We've spent now up to this point nearly $2 million. So what we're looking at is, up to this point, having $2 million expenditures, and this upcoming year will be something far more substantial. So really 2018 is that year that not only are we looking to with anticipation, but we know with, as a requirement that we're going to be spending, a significant amount of funds. And you can see, again, the broader plan will come to you in the fall, but projects that we are very confident will be included on that list in some order of magnitude. Nordhoff Library, we're looking at the improvements that the subcommittee as well as the Nordhoff Library planning team will be reviewing in September. Put that project around $2 million by itself. Will be a very exciting space, I believe. And the last thing I'll just mention as part of this item is our energy efficiency improvements. If you recall, Prop 39 was a funding source that generated about $600,000 just below for the district over the past 5 years. We're now in the 5th year of that funding cycle. It was the Green Jobs Act, and it was intended only for energy efficiencies within the district. And it is a requirement that we submit our plan before the end of this calendar year for the funds to be expended in 2018 as well. So what we're looking at is, as a requirement, at minimum, we have to submit a efficiency plan before the end of this year for that full Prop 39 funding source. But we really do believe that this is an opportunity. The Prop 39 or the Measure J subcommittee met, and I think there was growing consensus that this was the opportunity to really look at something broader that would have a really significant return on investment for efficiency improvements. So 3 main things we're looking at is LED bulb replacement, so having a full lighting replacement across the district, HVAC improvements, so their typical life expectancy is 15 to 18 years. We have very few units younger than 18 years, so we are ripe for upgrade there. And then the third piece of their of Climatech's proposal, or of the general plans that districts undergo, is building automation. So things from as simple as having a switch so the air conditioner turns off after 2 hours, to actually what we're looking at, having our bigger facilities being fully Wi-Fi connected. And so Dave Rogers will be able to see if on a Saturday we have the air conditioning running in multiple classrooms, or lighting being left on, and being able to monitor also the thermostats and that sort of thing. So we are working with Climatech. Our goal is to have them present an initial concept for discussion at our September board meeting, but as much as we were hoping it would be here tonight, they just aren't quite ready.
So this 2018 deadline, when you say, a couple questions.
Sure.
So when you say the money has to be committed.
Right, under contract.
Okay, we have to sign a contract. That's what committed means.
That's where you start getting into a little bit of a gray area. I mean, the IRS has never actually pursued a district, from what I've been told, for failing to meet this, but we certainly don't want to be the first one to test them. The legal opinion we've received is to be committed, and that different districts have interpreted that as being under contract. Some have said that you actually have to begin drawing down on those contracts. Others have said you have to have a very clear plan that it shows exactly how the funds will be expended soon.
So committed could conceivably, I think you just answered my third question, which is committed could conceivably be the board has voted in earmark.
Exactly, precisely,
Okay.
precisely. Yep. Yeah, exactly. That's our Measure J update for
Any other
2017
questions
and
for Ron?
going forward. Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. 6.2, back to school. Hooray.
So
Whether we
sure.
like it or not.
Cheryl and I will be doing this one together. I will be talking about the first couple pages, and then Cheryl is going to give a little bit of an overview of the staff development days that we've had this year so far on this morning, today, as well as we'll be having tomorrow, as well as talking about some of our other staffing changes for this year. And then one of her personal initiatives for this year as well. But the first document in the set of materials you'll see, I thought, it's pretty surprising. Well, most of us know we've had some changes, but to see just how many changes just in a one-year span of leadership across this district, a number of leaders either at a new site or in a new role. If you actually go back, just looking at 3 years ago, of course, everyone here knows we have 4 new board members in the past 3 years, as well as the only leadership member of the entire district who's in the same role at the same site as Catherine White. So really a significant period of change, but things are settled at this point, and very excited as we've had staff beginning to return to our sites and really getting things going for the school year. So exciting time. Going into actually the return of students this week. The only thing I can tell you with this enrollment projection that you see, or the current enrollment report, is just like any enrollment projection, it's wrong. It's already out of date. This was not a projection, though. This was our actual enrollments as of Friday. We've talked about this around this table, but again, for those in the audience or watching at home, this school year was really to be the year that when the Delinka group, the consulting group that we hired 2 years ago to look at enrollment for this district and its projection in the future, this was supposed to be the year that we really bottomed out as far as or had the lowest level of our enrollment, and that we began to see an uptick beginning with the next school year. They really were basing that projection on having a 218 student kindergarten cohort entering in based on birth rates from 5-6 years ago. You can see that our current kindergarten is not showing that. We're actually right in line with where we've been for the past 4 or 5 years. So
That's the 161.
That's exactly the 161 that you see as total enrollment for kindergarten. That's the comparison point of what
And they thought
were.
it was going to be 218 this
218
year?
is what they were showing.
Wow.
And then every projection they made in the subsequent years was based on a pretty complex regression analysis that they performed based on, though, this 218 student cohort being the new baseline. And so what we're going to start seeing is each year you'll see a further trend away from what their projections were and closer to what Hank and I both mentioned to Andrew and the OVN this past week, which is that we really do see the district becoming a district of about 2,200 students in the next few years, having cohort sizes in the neighborhood of 150 to 170 students per grade.
Do we have an explanation as to where that discrepancy came from? I mean, they looked at birth rates. So did we lose those families? Were their birth rates off? Do we know why?
So we don't have information as far as movement of families before they enter our district. Of course, we have some information once a family's entered our district, but for the 218 births, or not 218, I'm sorry, the 180 or so births that actually took place in the 2012 calendar year, which they then projected based on historical projections that 160, 170 births equals 218 student enrollment. That was just based off of, again, using that analysis of looking at historical trends of birth rates in a single year to a cohort 6 years later. But they had the correct information. It was provided by the state. So it's just a matter of we had an anomaly of a year. The year prior it was at 130 births. So it wasn't like that was a standard year. And we don't have information as to where those families are. I have not had a chance to speak with the private schools yet to see if they're seeing an uptick. I don't anticipate that they would be, but...
I was here when they made the presentation. I mean, you only have really solid data for a few years because you have the kids who are being born this year until they get to school.
Exactly.
And beyond that, you really don't have anything. And so I kept asking them the question, what are you basing this data on? And he went into the regression line using math, which, it's like every business that's ever done projections on growth. It's just, okay, we're going to start here and then we're going to go up. And so theirs is, okay, we're going to start here and we're going to go straight. So yeah. I don't think it was based on anything meaningful.
It was based on, I think it's fair, I think it was based on the most meaningful information that they could be using. It's just a matter of creating a projection, especially things, as you say, on kids who are yet to be born, on how likely they are to be born and then to matriculate into our school.
Everyone seems so starstruck or love-struck this
Right.
year.
It is
Lots of
challenging.
babies.
So if we look across the district, what we're seeing is a decline at the elementary grades of about 10 students relative to last year. We'll see that Topa Topa is certainly the school that is seeing the greatest change from last year. I had a couple of questions from board members over the weekend about Topa Topa specifically. One thing just to note is that the biggest change is not that we're seeing families leaving Topa Topa going outside the district or to other schools within the district. What we had was a 16-17 cohort of 70 plus students who promoted up to Matilaha now for this school year, and they're being replaced by 44 students. So there are going to be 30 students down from last year if these enrollment numbers hold for 2 more days. But again, it's not a matter of seeing a great number of students in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grades leaving. They're having larger cohorts promote up and a smaller incoming kindergarten class. So across the district, these numbers I think are still going to be overstated. What you're able to see at the very bottom of this page is an enrollment decline of only 22 students. That's actually better than what we were anticipating. We're anticipating an enrollment decline between 40 and 50 students. I think that we're likely, as we actually see where enrollment ends up in the next few weeks, that we'll probably still be pretty close to where our projection was, especially at the secondary level, unless it's just truly the Munson bump of this 9th grade cohort coming in. This is right now our numbers are showing the highest cohort, what we call cohort survival rate from 8th grade going into 9th. Typically, we lose somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 25 8th graders who either go to Villanova, go down to El Camino, go elsewhere. What we're seeing is a loss of only about 8 students or so from this cohort of 8th graders. We'll see, though, exactly again how that ends up working out.
Do we have other students coming in that skews that?
It's a net,
I feel like I
right?
know
It's a net number. It's a
Okay.
net. So yeah, there are going to be some
There are
families that are coming in,
Okay.
but this is, every year it's a net number, and so
Right,
this
right.
is certainly an interesting trend. But you can imagine that there are going to still be some families who maybe haven't communicated to us yet that they already have enrolled in another school. We've tried to have the best numbers we have, and they're current as of Friday. But again, once we actually have kids back in seats, is when we get better numbers. But I just want to give visibility to you as to how the numbers are looking right now. All right, so that's our enrollment right now, slightly better than was projected, but again, I think we'll settle somewhere pretty close to where we were projecting. One thing that I do want to point out and I'm very excited about to be able to share is that we are for another year now what is working out to be about 4 consecutive years seeing declining classroom sizes. This year we'll be at the lowest that we've been in, and in fact, just 4 years ago we were over nearly 31 students. We were at just below 31. 4 years ago in the elementary grades, and right now we're looking at a class size average across the district of 26.4 students. So really exciting that we've been able to now again have 2 years of actual salary enhancements for our staff, long overdue, as well as improving working conditions and being able to have more intimate class size for our students. So that's certainly exciting, and we're seeing similar, either remaining the same or slight declines in class sizes at the secondary as well.
Well, I think last year we got a breakdown of actually,
Absolutely.
how many
each classroom teacher.
Angie
Yep.
has this many,
Absolutely.
so-and-so has this many. Yeah.
We don't put that out until Friday because we're counting heads and finalizing classes and everything else. At this point,
Our next meeting.
what's that?
Our next meeting.
Exactly. Oh yeah. Yep. You'll certainly get that. All right. So those were just 2 of the ideas that I didn't think necessarily warranted their own agenda item, but within the subheading of we're coming back to school and a few areas that I know the board and the public are interested in. And now we wanted to have Cheryl talk a little bit about professional development days. Remember, this is now our 3rd year that we've had a full restoration of the instructional calendar year, which means 184 days for certificated staff, 4 staff development days, 2 of which take place before school starts. So if you want to talk a little bit about the fun you had this morning and what was going on across the district.
Spend the day at Miramani, where we had all 5 elementary schools together to received training from trainers that came from Houghton Mifflin Harcourt for our new English language adoption. So I can speak a little bit about what happened there today, but just as a general overview, Monday is really the professional development day where principals put together trainings and they went over certain things, and I know you can see specifically here, I know that WASC was a little bit of a focus for Nordhoff and for Chaparral, given that these are years that they're going to be in a WASC year. So in addition to that, Mattelha did some fun bonding activities this morning. I got some fun pictures, and then had Janine Murphy, who's a great resource, come out and do a presentation for them. Tomorrow is much more of a nuts and bolts kind of day for the meetings. Most sites are going over schedules and talking about the first days of school. We have to do something called a hot body count, so just reminding people of the things that we have to get done in the first weeks. So certainly the biggest thing I would say happened at Miramonte today, which is having those trainers out for an all-day training. The new curriculum is going to be great. One of my favorite pieces about it is that, with all the research that's out there and the things that we know about offering intervention to students, when we talk about tier 2 level interventions and tier 3 level interventions, the neediest kids, you want to give them the things that they need. And those things now are built right into the programs. And it's so great. So we have everything we need at the tips of our fingers. And it's so overwhelming, by the way. So many boxes. If you guys haven't seen the pictures of what this looked like when they dropped it all off at Miners Oaks, and the team of people that it took to go through, gosh, Marilyn could tell you the number. I can't remember how many pallets and how many tens of thousands of pounds this was, but it's a lot of stuff, and so it's very overwhelming for teachers to know, what do we have to use? What are the musts that we have to use with kids? What are the extra pieces? So that's what we went through today, all the different components and what's there for us, and I think it's really exciting to know that it's all built right into the program. The things that we need are at our fingertips. So
was the training broken down into like primary and
so K through 3rd and then 4th through 6th. Yeah. So any specific questions on that today that I can answer, or just thought I would?
So, yeah, thanks for filling us in.
Can we see
It's
some of the
exciting.
pictures?
of the
Forward
boxes?
us, yeah.
I will.
Forward us.
Yeah.
I was interested to hear, you've seen the name on books your whole life, but it's pronounced Houghton Mifflin?
That's how I always pronounce it. Mifflin,
Is that
Harcourt.
okay?
Maybe it is. I don't
The
know.
Mifflin I've always been able to pronounce, but the other I wasn't sure.
I'll have to, I know HMH is how we refer to it a lot.
So HMH. Then you don't need to know.
That's right.
Amazing.
So that
Another
was
acronym.
the overview of today and tomorrow. Do you want me to talk a little bit about new staff? So there have been some staffing updates over summer. We unfortunately lost Colin Hacker back to a district that he was from, but we did hire Dana Christie, so we're excited to have her on board in the elementary music world. Another big thing that happened over summer is that Merv Van Acker resigned from his position at Nordhoff, but we're very happy to have been able to hire Beth Cohen, so she will be filling in there. Jake Hansen is going to be doing video production in place of, is it Tom Friedman, I think, who left last year. Emily Heath will be doing physical education at Mattilha, which that I think we did know about prior to leaving for summer.
Who was leaving? Who's leaving?
There were some shifts in.
There was a shift in the science department that then we brought over because we haven't had a female PE teacher.
Right, I know.
So we made a priority of hiring a female PE teacher for, she's doing 60%, so 3 sections, and then we'll do some locker room coverage as well for the other ones.
Right, but we still have Mr. Muth and Mr.
Yeah, they both are. I can't recall which one is now doing a few sections of.
Math or science?
Well, is it?
Okay.
And then in a similar situation, Nicole, and I don't know if I'm going to get her name right, Hopaya, she's doing biological sciences at Nordhoff, and that was also just because of some shifts in the current faculty, I think moving to 80%, and that just left an opening, so she's been hired in science.
As well as, so just a reminder, we had Greg Lapine go down to 60% last year as part of a 2-year agreement toward retirement. This year we have Jim Mock who's doing the same thing, and so he gave up 2 sections. So part of her was filling 2 sections. It's also filling a piece of the environmental science course that Greg is now taking back over in the few shifts because of the departure of Lori, environmental science, who's doing the CTE class.
Greg Lapine.
Not Greg.
Oh.
The field studies.
Last year.
Brandon Titus. Thank you.
Oh, right.
Brandon is no longer with us. So that's how ultimately we did have a 20% reduction in science at Nordoff, but the reason that we hired a full-time person was the shifts of all those part-time roles.
Okay, so then we also have Kyle Rader, who's going to be taking the special day class at Matilaha, and then Christy Thatcher, who is going to be taking the special day class at Topa Topa. We also hired Jamie Rooney over summer, so she's going to be the assistant principal at Nordoff and a returning ranger because she was a math teacher back when I taught Spanish and English. And then we have 2 long-term sub positions. Janet Quintanilla is going to be teaching Spanish at Nordoff, and Lindsay Williams is going to be teaching kindergarten at Miramani for 2 people that are out on maternity leave. So those are staffing updates.
So again, hitting you guys with a lot of information, just wanting to catch everyone up to speed on some of the new developments for the school year, and then really what Cheryl and I wanted the next few minutes talking about was 2 priorities that we really see as from a district office team as far as priorities going forward for this year. We know we'll be identifying many more in the coming weeks and months, but Cheryl has a particular passion and something that has certainly been identified around this table to focus on for this upcoming year. So she'll talk about PLCs, and then I'm going to actually be introducing in a few minutes Julie and Tiarza Taylor to talk a little bit about another initiative as far as communication from the district and episites. But if you want to just give a little information on PLCs in this year.
Yeah, so PLCs are professional learning communities, and there's a lot of research out there that shows that this is the most important thing that an educational organization can do to really, analyze programs, talk about student achievement, and use those opportunities where you're sitting down in small groups and having discussions to decide how you're going to drive things forward and make decisions for the future. So the idea here is that, especially when we talk about K-12-ness and bringing everybody together and being on the same page in a unified front, knowing what each other's doing, the only way that's going to happen is if you sit down in rooms together and talk together, right? So you can't be unified if you're not having those conversations. So ideally what I'd like to do over the next few years is start to make teams of people. It might be grade alike kind of meetings. It might be some sort of vertical alignment type meeting where you have maybe 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th grade math teachers come together. All sorts of different combinations of teams where we are all talking about the big picture items that we'd like to see happen to mostly affect student achievement, but just the overall best things that we can do for students here in the district. And so, as part of that process, we would want to be really looking at data. So that's one of the hardest jobs that can happen, is to decide which pieces of data we should look at, because data is very big and broad, and there's lots of data points out there that you could look at. So we would want to kind of talk as teams and say, what are the most crucial things that we should look at to help us decide if we're moving in the right direction as we're looking at the changes that we're making in programs and seeing if they're actually having a positive impact on our students. So we'll talk about that in the upcoming years. And then, like I said, in those meetings, talk about what we could be doing better to enhance our programs, making programmatic changes, looking at our interventions, like I was just talking about that we saw today in our Houghton Mifflin training, but talking about what are the best things that we can do together as a team, all moving forward in a unified effort. So that'll be the big thing that I hope to work on, and hope to bring you guys into that process as well as everybody. Yeah.
So that's just a brief introduction on professional learning communities, and you guys will certainly be seeing this, carried through the school year. I know that Cheryl will be meeting with groups, assembling them, and at times be reporting out on the types of developments that come from that. Another initiative is.
Can I just add in there? I'd love to see those PLCs reaching out to parents and the
Absolutely.
community as well, not just for input, but for help.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we've decided we wanted to do this, and we're going to need your help to do it.
That's right.
So, sorry, go ahead.
Nope, that's great. So the last thing that we just want to touch on again under this broad subheading of back to school and a couple of new initiatives is really one of enhanced community outreach. A few months ago, as I was transitioning, TRs and I began having conversations about how we really, as a district office, and then also out to the sites, can be doing a better job in really reaching stakeholders, both current families in the district, but also helping shine the light on the great things that we're doing across our district to people who maybe aren't currently part of the district, other families who, some of those families who had births back in 2012 and for whatever reason chose not to matriculate or elsewhere. But we know that we're partners in this community and that we've already had great support from those who passed Measure J. And we may need to be going out in the future for a parcel tax. And so really what we're wanting to do is make sure we really are engaging the community, keeping people informed, and that obviously begins with our own families and staff in our district. And so I'm choosing to highlight Tiarza and Julie as well with one example of the type of initiatives that you'll see coming out more often this year from our district. As a brief introduction of Tiarza, you likely know her as the current OEF president. She also has 3 children in our district, one at San Antonio, one at Matilla, and one who's going to be a freshman at Nordhoff, so across the spectrum of our schools. She also happens to have 20 years plus of experience in the corporate world doing this exact thing of really community outreach, communications, public relations, and I think that you'll get a pretty clear and quick sense of just how lucky we are to have her assisting us. So with that, I'll have Tiarza talk a little bit about this particular initiative of Feed Our Kids, Fund Our Schools, and Julie, you can also share, again, some of the enhanced communication strategies we're taking this year.
Thank you, Andy, and thank you, distinguished board members, for allowing me to speak. I think I know basically everybody here, so it's a pleasure to speak with you in this capacity. But as Andy said, he and I both serve on the OEF board, and in talking about how we better engage our stakeholders and ensure they're aware of all the amazing things that are happening in the district, what can we do to better tell our story and further ensure that all stakeholders, whether it's family members or residents or community members alike, know exactly what's going on. So I was thrilled when Andy said that this might be something that we could do not just from the filter of OEF, but expand it out to the district. So there's a very comprehensive plan that's been developed with regard to who those stakeholders are, what our key messages are going to be, how we integrate those messages through the different sites, how we use various media to do that, and really just kind of take everything to the next level to tell the district story. So I'm really thrilled to do that. Had the opportunity to brief the leadership team about it last Thursday. We'll be speaking with them individually to further refine that, and we'll be very happy to share those broader plans about what stakeholder engagement looks like for the district. But as Andy said, one of the things that the first project he asked us to work on was this opportunity to increase student enrollment in the free and reduced price meal program. And because it was such a perfect opportunity, it's a district-wide effort. Clearly, many families know about it, but a lot of families don't. And was there a way that we could further expand on the benefits and why we should have families participate in this if they qualify? So it's been a distinct pleasure to be able to work with Julie Chesson and Nutrition Services, and just as a parent, to learn more about the incredible work that's being done to ensure that we have healthy, nutritious meals for our kids and the innovative ways that they're doing that. And so we came up for the student enrollment campaign, Feed Our Kids, Fund Our Schools, a way to raise awareness about the program and also encourage families to not only enroll because of the nutritional value of the meals, but to make them aware that you will also earn an additional $1,400 per student who qualifies for the district. So a great way, and not as much time and energy is required for many of our fundraisers, especially OEF, a great way to get some additional dollars to the district. So we have been working closely on building out collateral materials, key message points. We just had 2 interviews today with local press also to tell the story, so hopefully you'll be seeing that in the paper as well. And really great feedback from the schools that we've already visited. There'll be more to follow. The leadership team already knows the benefits, and we're very, very excited about that as well. So that's kind of the broad level, and I'll turn it over to Julie to give you a bit more detail.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, board members. I'm really excited to share with you all of our outreach efforts related to this campaign, as well as highlighting the nutritional integrity of our program. And I'd like to pass around this brochure. Here's all the English brochures, and then there's a Spanish one. And with TR's help, as well as the partnership of Food for Thought, we have created this brochure that highlights nutrition services, as well as provides information about what's new, a bunch of resources. It lists our website and the app, which I'll explain to you in just a minute. And then it also has information about the Feed Our Kids, Fund Our Schools campaign, which is what we're promoting. So if you take a look at the inside where it says what's new, I'm really excited about offering our school meals online this year. We have put all of our menus online for parents to easily access, and parents and students can also download the My Schools Menu app as well. Right now, it is only in English, and the software company is working on a Spanish translation. So we have translated the menu directly into the online menu so that the Spanish-speaking families can access it as well. I also want to mention that this brochure was included in all of the application packets, which was then included in the enrollment packets at the school sites. So each family should receive this brochure with all the information. And these are also available for parents to receive at the school site office as well.
I have to tell you that I got my school packet,
Mhm.
and I have to admit that I'm one of those parents that shuffles through, and there's a lot here, and it's gorgeous. And I actually read the whole thing, and I'm like, wow, there's so much here. So well done, well done.
It's the color. You like
Right.
color.
I know.
That
Something
was
that's not-
the goal.
It worked. It worked.
So in addition to this brochure, we have, let's see, we have attended Ranger Roundup as well as the Matilaha 7th grade enrollment event to again raise awareness of the nutrition services program as well as the campaign, which has been extremely successful so far. The kitchen manager at Nordhoff had mentioned how compared to last year, there were a lot more applications that were submitted just from that one night. And at Matilaha, a couple of parents approached me stating that they were unaware of all of the nutritious and healthy offerings that we have here at the school sites in our district. We are also going to be attending all the back to school nights, again, to raise the awareness of this wonderful program. And am I missing anything as far as outreach? We have updated the nutrition services website to make it easy for families to access the online application. And the campaign information is also listed on the website. So if you take a look at the resources, everything is listed on the nutrition services website.
I think it's great. I mean, this kind of stuff is for, maybe families who haven't enrolled in it, but who are also going to start just buying lunch.
Mhm.
And especially helps to have the, Mexican Tuesday, Asian Thursday, so you kind of know, oh, my kid loves that kind of food. I'm going to buy every Wednesday, and I don't have to make a lunch. Because those are, going to be more likely to be using that app than a family who doesn't have Wi-Fi at home, who needs, something like those back to school nights. Where it's the only time perhaps you're going to have an opportunity to meet those families and to have someone there helping to fill them out. Maybe, or we have some.
Oh yes, so we will have a team at each of the back to school nights to help answer any questions and help families to fill out the application, because it does look very intimidating, but we are there to help. And I do want to mention that for the families who don't have access to Wi-Fi, we are still providing a paper application, a paper menu at all of the school sites.
Do we
So that will
know?
continue.
In terms of we had a lot of discussion last year after the election in terms of people being afraid to come forward and fill out anything. Is there questions on there that would make someone hesitant to give information? Do we know?
The social security number,
Yeah.
Deters families, but they don't need a social security number to complete an application.
And you're right, Jane. We actually tried to address that too in the cover letter. We recognize that many families aren't completing the application for various reasons. One, they just self-select out, presume that they don't qualify. Another is that there is a stigma attached to perhaps qualifying for the program, and will their children be marked in some sort of fashion to do that, and another is because of the intimidation of the application. So we do have message points in the cover letter, and when her team is out, and Julie's team is out speaking to parents, to say, the team takes great pride in ensuring the confidentiality of that information. The social security number is not required to participate in the program. Though it's an intimidating application that regulations require certain information in there, it's really about 5 minutes to fill it out, and that's it. And that her team then takes that information extremely confidentially. Only 2 of her members actually review the information that's there to determine who qualifies. So we did try to think through all of the reasons why families aren't participating and give them the reasons why they still should try.
I have a couple of questions. Is the form required, or do we just need to turn in the data? I mean, I'm just
For
wondering.
federal reimbursement, the form's required.
Okay, so it's that specific form that's required.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the other question is, would we know maybe by our next board meeting how we're doing on the free and reduced versus last year?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How does it work without the social security number? I'm curious, only because that was a stumbling block for us in the past. So if you have a social security number, you do have to give it, or you don't have to have, I'm curious how that works.
Well, on the application, there's a section where it states the last 4 digits of the social security number, or check the box that says none. So
if you
either
do
one
have
of those
one,
options have to be selected,
okay.
but there's the option of selecting none if they don't
But
have.
that would suggest that you don't have a social security number. You can't select none if you do have a social security number. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
That's what I was going to say. Why don't we just select none or no
Because
on
I
all of
did
them?
select,
and
I
then
did that, and I went, I'm not giving up my social security number because I'm just obstinate sometimes, and I got a call from nutrition services saying, "No, we need your social security number." So I was curious how that worked.
Well, was that last year? Or
No,
years
this was
past?
several years ago.
So I think there has been clarification in
Okay.
in the past 7 months that I don't believe that phone call would be going out asking for Social Security. If someone has marked that box none, then there would not be a follow-up call
Okay.
of someone persisting and saying that they must fill something out. That's very clearly legally established. We would not deny any family the ability to have a meal regardless of how they.
So if they did check none, but they didn't have, they do have one?
If they check none, then they've met the requirement we have to have either the 4 numbers filled out or the box none checked.
All right.
And we do verify 3% of our applications, but that's based on income. So there is a verification process.
Uh-huh.
Earn $1,400 in 5 minutes.
That's right. That's right.
So
Everyone will stop and look at that.
That's right.
So
So Lori brought up a good point that this year what has been included in the eligibility for the students is the Medi-Cal, whether or not they have Medi-Cal, and they can qualify for either free or reduced price meals based on that criteria. So that was added this year.
So if they qualify for Medi-Cal, then they qualify for this, is what you're saying?
Most likely, yes.
Okay.
But it's still a separate form. It's not like you get a list of who's qualified for Medi-Cal.
Well, actually, we do. It's again a confidential list that the state provides to the county, and then the county then provides it to each school district within the county. we only have access to the students here in our district, and so we do receive a list from them. And again, that's a brand new process that has been implemented this year.
So
That's
those
great.
folks are automatically certified for the program.
Yes, at a free or reduced.
So they're part of that broader group that is a direct cert. That already there was a few other categories of state assistance that if one qualifies for or receives, then they automatically were certified. Right now, this is another program that if one qualifies for, they are directly certified through that process.
Correct. And I'm currently receiving clarification from the state right now because we're directly certifying students from the county list or the state list, but if a parent were to list on the application directly, the student receives Medi-Cal, are they also qualified? So I'm currently receiving clarification regarding that.
So Lori, you're here as well. Again, thank you to Food for Thought for its continued support of many things in nutrition services, but certainly for helping fund this. In the past few years, you'll recall we've had the calendar that goes out at the beginning of the year. That was a very pretty calendar. Again, lots of pictures and color. We felt this year, rather than going that path, that this was really the right way to be able to get a little bit more of the messaging out. Also, of course, a focus on the Feed Our Kids, Fund Our Schools program. And then ultimately, we were realizing that when you're trying to create a school calendar in June for the entire cafeteria calendar for the year, that some years kids just don't like spaghetti, and so it doesn't make sense to just force that every third week because it was written in June preceding. And so this gives us a little bit more flexibility as far as switching up meal options throughout the year because we can just update the app right away as opposed to having something that's not what families are expecting when they send their child with their $3 that day or whatever it might be. But thank you very much to Tiaras and Julie for sharing. You can certainly see it's no coincidence that the business superintendent has as one of my first initiatives, something that really is intended to help raise revenue for the district. So we'll have many more things like this, but I was just really excited to share with you a very tangible effort of something new that's coming into the district this year, and we are very hopeful we'll have a significant impact on revenue for us this year.
I also appreciate, I have to say this here, what's new with all of the, what I would call the socially responsible things that you're contributing to the community. I mean, aside from quality food. And I would encourage you to share that a lot. Because I think that, being a part of the community, it's not just about the kids, it's also being about a responsible citizen and sort of setting an example and leading the way and showing that it's possible. I really appreciate that you're doing that. So just don't hide that light.
Okay. And Tiarza had already mentioned to me, she's the marketing expert, so marketing communications.
Well, I was just going to your point, when Julie presented at the Ranger Roundup on orientation on Thursday, and she went through those highlights. I mean, the applause from parents, I think, she definitely got the most applause and most attention from everyone. So, this is Ojai, and we care about being socially conscious, health conscious, conscientious. And so to say things about partnership with Food for Thought, removal of 64,000 units of styrofoam from landfills, vegetarian opportunities, whole grains, I mean, just all of it was really resonated with our parents.
Scratch cooking.
Fresh bread.
Yeah, fresh bread.
Fresh bread.
What's
Nordoff
great
every
is
day.
that this district was already doing all of this, and now we have a way to communicate with the community and with. So thank you, Tiarza, for helping us. with that.
I was just pulling bullhorn on everything that's been done. So, yeah.
Thank you both
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you so much.
While you're here, because I was going to do this at the end. We'll do it at the end. I do want to thank Food for Thought for the donations that you guys have made that are listed on our consent calendar. Very important. Thank you. Okay, so we move on to 7.1. Does anyone have any particular problem with my taking point 1, point 2, and point 3 all together, those PIP assignments?
All for it.
Okay, So I'll look for a motion to approve 7.1.1.2.3.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. 7.1.4, variable term waiver for employment for educational specialist Beth Cohen at Nordoff. Any questions?
Move to approve.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Okay, 7.1.5, letter of intent from Ojai Federation of Teachers. Do I open the public meeting after I have Angie speak, or does
That
it
can be
matter?
part of the public meeting.
Okay, so I'll need a motion to open this for a public hearing.
I'll move to open the public hearing.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And it's really good to have a public meeting when we open it for a public meeting, rather than just having to close the public meeting.
We have a public comment.
For the record, I'm Angie Janassi, President of the Ojai Federation of Teachers. And I just want to say we're looking forward to negotiating with the school district. We've had great negotiations in the last few years, and it's been very positive and friendly. And we're looking forward to that also, and hoping that continues. This is a year where we're opening up the entire contract. So we're looking at a lot of different articles and looking to clean up different areas that just need to be cleaned up, in our opinion. But some of them are, just like TK. There's no TK in our contract. We just have to do things like that. And then also, I wanted to give you some information. In the past, Mike Turman has been our California Federation of Teachers representative, and he is retired. So we now have a new representative, Wes Davis, and he will be joining us as part of our negotiations team. And then Merv Van Acker, as you heard earlier, he had already decided that he wanted to step down from being the chief negotiator, but he has left the district. So I will be the chief negotiator, and so it's kind of the same team except for Wes instead of Mike. So just wanted to let you have that.
Was he not also, was the vice president? Is that the same as the chief negotiator?
Vice president in charge of negotiations.
Okay, so you're wearing both hats. There
I'm
is
wearing
no...
both hats. Yeah, both hats. No one else wanted to take it. I said I'll do it. So,
Well
that's
done.
it. Do you have questions? Am I supposed to do questions for the public hearing, or I don't know?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good.
I mean, if we did, we could.
You can always ask me when I'm sitting here.
Any other public comments? Okay, I'll need a motion to close the public hearing on the letter.
I'll move to close the public hearing.
I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. And in response, 7.1.6, the board's response. Received the letter.
So we actually.
Oh, we have to
one
receive,
more.
oh yeah, I'm sorry. The board has asked and receive the public input. No.
Sorry, go back. Just one more vote.
Oh, okay. Hope of you take action to accept the letter of intent from the Ojai Federation. Thank you.
I'll move to accept the letter.
I'll say.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Got it. Yeah, then you'll have to help me a lot. You've been the only one who's been a president before. Okay.
I feel really weird because I think I might have started here even before you did, Kathy.
You did. Yes,
So-
you did.
I don't feel like I've been here very long. I'm gonna try not to take it personally.
Well, you'll be the expert. Okay, so, sorry, now 7.1.6, the board response and proposal to the Ojai Federation of Teachers Letter of Intent. I'd like to open a public hearing. I'll need a motion to open the public hearing.
To open the hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Any comments? I will move to close the public hearing. Do I have a second? Michael? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, none opposed. Okay, now I assume I have to do the same thing.
Actually, no vote on this
No?
one.
No vote on that one. All right. Whew, got through that. Now we will skip to 7.4.1, Resolution 1718-1, certification of signatures for authorized agents for the fiscal year. Obviously, that's pretty straightforward because we've had some position changes. Any questions?
No, a lot of them were just the name change.
Yeah. Okay, so move to approve that resolution. A motion, sorry.
I'll move to approve that resolution.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Second reading of CSBA board policies. Boy, there's two huge changes. Any questions? All right,
This was the easiest one ever.
yes, that was very straightforward.
I'll
So,
move to approve
okay.
the changes.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed? Superintendent's report from our new superintendent.
Well, I just wanted to briefly speak to what we had going on from 4:30 to 5:30 this afternoon with honoring Hank. I think that everyone around the room and up at the dais said it well, but Hank was someone who not only was just absolutely instrumental and the right leader to help us during a really challenging time of continuing declining enrollment, financial challenges, and the many other things that we faced from Sacramento as well as DC as far as changes in federal policy, changes in curriculum and local policy, but absolutely has put the district in a far better position than when he arrived here 8 years ago. But you notice that there was very few comments actually been spoken about that when it came to Hank the past hour. Far more you hear people talk about. I know it's shared by all of us around here. The type of person that Hank was, the type of leader he was, and what stuck out to me is, as I shared during my comments during that meeting, was as I surveyed the leadership across our district, the thing that kept coming back was Hank was a stickler for detail. He was, direct. He could be assertive, but more than anything, he balanced all of those with really having you feel valued when you walked out of the room. And I think that's just a tremendous, admirable trait, one that I will do my best to replicate. But he is an incredible leader, and the district certainly is fortunate that we somehow snagged him 8 years ago. So I realize that I am partially to blame for that, the fact that we had to celebrate him in 2017 rather than maybe 2019 or later. But I'm tremendously excited about this opportunity, and I do feel that for the past 2 years I had the best person to learn from, and fortunately having this year of transition really did allow he and I to begin the transition 6, 7, 8 months ago. And so when August 17th came, I hope there was not a noticeable change to anyone in the district. It really felt pretty seamless to me. But I'm looking forward to this upcoming year. We got a chance to briefly highlight a few of the initiatives that we'll be focusing on this year. But I think this is a really exciting time for our district with new leaders across the district, new staff coming in, and entering our third year of a level of stability and a budget that we're not having to make draconian cuts as we have in the past. So an exciting time, and I'm just grateful for the opportunity.
I'm going to expect all the meetings to be this late.
So
I don't know about that.
Hank always had the ability to say, my superintendent's report is disproportionately related to the hour of the evening, and was able to cut it short into about 3 minutes or so because it was 9 o'clock. I feel like I now need to drag this on for a little bit, but I will. I'll go ahead and cede my time.
Items for future agendas. Shelley, you want to talk about starting times?
I will talk about start times because I keep talking about start times. And I actually have more to add to start times. I had requested that we look at that next month and see. I feel like the beginning of the school year is the time to analyze that and see where we are. 7:30 seems very early to me. I don't know how other people feel, and I feel like the research is there telling us that this is not the best for our students. To that end, just this afternoon actually, I received a request for, I assume you guys know, maybe I should back up. There's a Senate bill that would require districts to start after 8:30. It has passed the Senate, is my understanding. It's now in the House, and it's gone through several committees, and there will be a September 1st vote in committee.
Wow.
Before it goes to a September 15th vote in the general, in the House. Then my understanding is it would go to the governor. So it's gone pretty far at this point. I also know that CSVA is not in favor of it. They believe that it's up to the individual school districts to make that decision. And while I understand that objective, I personally think that, as we've talked about briefly, it's really hard for individual districts to implement a later start because we are impacted by what the other districts are doing. Sports-wise, after-school issues, we would then clash. And so I am personally in support of a more uniform version of late start. So I will be sending a letter personally to Assemblywoman Fletcher, who is part of the committee, the Appropriations Committee. And I would, regardless of what happens with this, would like to look at why we are continuing the status quo, or whether we can have a later start for our junior high and high school.
And I actually wanted to propose a closed session at the next meeting for discussions about Andy's position and what our expectations for him and personnel issues.
Out of curiosity, it's clearly timely to have that conversation about start times. Did you envision a public hearing to talk about? I mean, because
Not at our next meeting.
Not
My
yet.
my feeling is I need to personally understand better what the implications are for our district, what it would mean transportation-wise, for our sports, and if there is a valid reason that we start at 7:30.
I know I've read about one district already that their superintendent said we could have written a letter in support, but we felt that the more specific thing to do was change our time. So they went ahead and did it. And so I'm not sure how many others are taking that step, but I'm definitely interested in it because this superintendent is saying they've already seen a difference. So I'm not clear what all of the barriers to it are. I'm sure there are some significant ones. But I agree with you. I think it's probably time.
Well, maybe you can research why we used to be 8:30 and we switched.
It's been 7:30 since the
We'll
80s.
Oh, okay.
we'll definitely add it to
Yeah,
our
we can't really
agenda.
discuss it tonight, but we just know that it's.
I think it would also be maybe interesting for you to talk with the county
Mhm.
and see
Sure.
if the other districts, what the other districts are thinking. I think that'd be good information for us to have. I mean, if all the districts were in a position to say we'd love to change, but everybody else isn't changing.
Mhm.
Right.
then-
Prisoner's dilemma.
Okay, consent calendar, any questions? Again, I wanted to thank, I'm gonna actually turn to that page, because the Optimist Club of Ojai, $500 for the new stage, the Lions Club of Ojai, $500 for the new portable stage, both of those at Miners Oaks. BCOE, Nordhoff Parents Association, Food for Thought, $6,000 towards our nutrition specialists, and the Ojai Valley Inn, 15 picnic tables for Miners Oaks and San Antonio. Well, thank you to our donors. So a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll move to approve. It seemed like it was longer than it's been in a long time.
The start of the school year is when we're setting up our POs, and so you're absolutely correct. We are always August and into September, even it can be longer than normal because of all the blanket POs we set up at the beginning of the year that get drawn down on throughout the year. And of course, a lot of HR changes as well.
So I'll move to approve.
Second. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. That's our meeting. We will adjourn to closed session. I don't believe we'll be returning. It says, we might come
Right.
back, but I don't think we have a motion, anything, so let me read that. Reconvene in open session to take action on an item discussed in closed session. We're not taking an action. So we will not reconvene. Good night. Thank you, everyone.